Good morning, friends, wherever you are, and welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Hope wherever you are, you're having a great time. And if I can get the usual sound check, that would be great. Let me know how things look and sound, and that would be greatly appreciated. And thanks to those of you who watched my videos this week. I put out several shorts, actually, several short videos, and I think I did have one or two actual longer format videos, but and I really enjoyed doing those more than the shorts. But the shorts do generate some excitement, a little traffic. Let's see, audio and video are great. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. And let's see who do we have in the house. I see we have Whip. And hey, Whip, one of my wonderful moderators. Good to see you there, buddy. Paul Newman in the house. David in the house. David Senger, good morning to you. A bubble off. Mel Wogue in the house. Okay. And Uncle Smiley's Aquariums. Dustin Robley. We got some great names in here. Hey, Cat Sailor, good to see you. Good Saturday to you as well. What are you all excited about here? Winner of the Michigan versus USC game. Okay, so you're into it. Hey, Michael. I used to be a big USC guy. I almost went to USC actually. Story for another day. Cotton Man in the house. All right. Hey, Jeremy. Good morning to you. Wet Sleeve Aquatics in Wisconsin. Hope it's a little drier there than it is here. We're getting the outside, I think the outside rim of that massive storm that pummeled Florida, and it looks like we're also getting some chaos in North Carolina with an imminent dam failure. I think there's a dam that's about to fail in North Carolina. Very scary stuff. And we already have flooding in East Tennessee. Central Tennessee has been spared so far, thank goodness. But we'll see. DSGF in the house. Excali Kev. Hey. Aqua Escape. Is that Escapes? Good morning to you as well. Hey, Sundar. Good to see Sundar. So if during today's live stream we lose picture, we disappear, right? It crashes. It just means that there was a weather event, because we're still having a lot of strong winds outside, and sometimes those winds will destroy our Wi-Fi. A tree will fall over, knock down some cables, things like that. So it might get a little fun, but fingers crossed that will be good for an hour here. Hey, Tracy. Tracy in the house. I'm looking at the chat. What does that say? Vigloom? Vigloom? Very, very cool. Cool name. Where are you from, Vigloom? That's an interesting name. All right, let's go ahead and make this official and do a couple shout outs and then get underway. Let me see where the there it is. Here we go. Now it's official. Now we can get started. All right. Kansas. Okay, very cool. Cool name. Love these YouTube names. So I was going through some of the comments under my videos, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll do a on the community page, I'll ask something like, what topics do you want to talk about? Or maybe I'll pull some questions from the Facebook page. This was nothing that formal. This was me this morning looking over some comments and thinking, you know, these comments would be good topics. And it really is that impromptu, that sort of sudden. And I decided to go ahead and pull some of them and make them highlights for today's live stream. So you might see your name in the comments, you might not. I just picked the ones that sort of piqued my interest, and here we go. Like Vigilante, okay. Vigilante, okay. We have a Vigilante in the house. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of these comments and discuss them. I think some of them are interesting. And while we're discussing them, go ahead and feel free to add your comments. Now, if you have something that you really want to highlight, there's two ways you can do it. One way is you can super chat, and I'm not holding my hand out, but what I'm saying is, if you do a super chat, very often that actually then shows prominently on the chat, and so that will jump out at me, right? Super chat's just a way to throw a little support to the channel. The other way is you write my name before your comment, like the way Jeremy Moore did. He put, you know, at ben.o.cichlid, how are you doing with the storm coming up to you? So you see that comment jumps out at me because he highlighted it. And you can see it there in the, I'll pin it to the top and you can see what I'm talking about. So he highlights it with my name first. So if you have a specific question for me, that's a good way to format it. That way I'll be sure to see it. So that being said, let's do a couple real quick shout outs, and then we'll do the rest of this stream commercial free. So first shout out. Oh, by the way, on the topic of shout outs, this weekend is Andre Fritz over in Garland, Texas, is his grand opening. So check out Beantown Aquatics in Garland, Texas, and they're having their grand opening today of his new facility. So check that out. He just received, like, I don't know how many boxes, quite a few boxes. I know they were going for hours and hours and hours unboxing of fish from Germany. These beautiful German-bred cichlids. You can check it out at the ben.o.cichlid, ben.o.cichlid, African cichlids, and a lot more on Facebook. He now is a what we call an approved vendor. So he put a video that highlights the fish he just received from Germany at the Facebook page. If you can't attend the grand opening, you of course do have access to those fish. I don't know how much he's selling them for, what the details are, but check out Beantown Aquatics. Beantown like Boston, but now he's in Garland, Texas. No longer Beantown, but check him out. And let's continue with a few shout outs here. A quick shout out to my friends at the Aquarium Co-op who have been very supportive to me, and I thank them for their help. They help me with a variety of things. My friend Zenzo, Corey, Candy, the group over at the co-op, always willing to help me out. Visit the Amazon shop for products that I've reviewed over the years, but also if you use that link to get to Amazon and then jump out to go shop other stuff, the channel gets a very small credit, but a credit nonetheless. So use that link, amazon.com/shop/ben.o.cichlid, to get to Amazon. Then do all your normal Amazon shopping, and you will actually be helping the channel. It's kind of a cool setup, and I think it works for 48 hours after you've logged on to Amazon. Simple way to help the channel, doesn't require any out-of-pocket. quick shout out to my friend Josh, who's been very, very busy, but we are working on some fish ideas. But a big shout out to Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals, a sponsor of the channel, who is offering a discount of 15%. Use ben.o.cichlid for 15% off on fish, and use ben.o.cichlid for 10% off on dry goods, including Cunningham Tropicals' own blend of food, which is very cool. And by the way, we did have a discount code for Beantown Aquatics, and I think it expires at the end of tomorrow. And I think it's just Ben10. I think it's Ben10. It's in that first video where I did the unbox. And so use that code if you go to Beantown. A couple more shout outs here and we'll be done. I gave a shout out to my wonderful moderators. Best moderators on YouTube. Like Whip. Are you blushing, Whip? And a big shout out to those of you who support the channel on a monthly basis by being Patreon members. Starts for as little as $3 a month. And it helps in more ways than you know. Love my Patreons, my Garage Gang members. And if you want to pick up some channel swag like t-shirts and mugs and sweatshirts now that the cold weather's coming, check it out at my Teespring store. Now, the Teespring store, you can use this link, or you can click on the Teespring logo, which appears under every one of my videos. And I think maybe the Amazon store appears. I think Patreon appears. So there's little logos. I think it's if you're on a computer. If you're watching on a computer. So there. All right. Let's go ahead and go a commercial free here. And let's take a look at some of these comments. By the way, I'm going to be doing a review of the Ben.Q, which is a close-up camera. So this is a camera you can use when you're doing reviews on products by a company called Ben.Q. Let me go ahead and take off the Teespring stuff so you can see it. There we go. So I'll watch for a review on this product from a company called Ben.Q. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to review it and I'm going to be showing the details on this new heater. Heaters are getting more and more more packed with technology. This one is 300 watts, 120 volts, 110 to 120. It does have built-in controller technology that will shut off the power in the event of any kind of malfunction. Intelligent dual temperature sensing probes detect water temperature in real time. LED HD digital display controller displays current temperature and current power. Automatic power off function when out of water to prevent dry burning. So this is when you do that water change, you lower that water level too low and your heater blows up. That doesn't happen with this one. Precise temperature control, over temperature protection function, automatic power off, and a signal, so it probably beeps. Memory function, durable, high temperature resistant, safety cover, suitable for fresh water. So this one is called the Aqua PTC Aquarium Heater AQ073. Aqua PTC Aquarium Heater AQ. Now Aqua, you can see it here. Aqua is the high-end Higer. So just like some companies have these high-end companies, like what is it? Doesn't Toyota have a high-end car line? And I think Datsun or Nissan has Infinity, but this is the high-end line for Higer, and I found their equipment, the Aqua equipment, to be exceptional, from their lights to their heaters. So watch for that review, and I think I'll show you the detail of the heater using that Ben.Q close-up camera. So we'll see how that looks. So, hey Jerry in the house, good to see you there, buddy. And sorry about what happened with your fish. Glass box monsters. Very, very cool. Very cool name, glass box monsters. I'm assuming you're keeping very large fish in very large aquariums. All right. So let's take a look at some of the comments that some of you made and take them up as subjects. This first comment is from a video called Top 5 Common Canister Filter Mistakes. And it comes to us from SEC Coach. Canister filters are the second best filters to have, second only to a sump, but not everyone can have a drilled aquarium. So canisters are great. They add more water, more filtration, and do the job. So a couple comments on canister filters that pertain to this comment. First of all, you don't need to have a drilled tank to run a sump. They do sell what are called overflow boxes that more or less hang on the aquarium like a hang-on back. But just imagine the hang-on back, but the pump is in an aquarium down below your aquarium. So it's just like a giant hang-on back filter, and the sump tank is the water reservoir of the hang-on back, right? You can look at it that way. And these overflows, what they do is they use siphon. They siphon to move water down into the tank, and then you have, of course, a pumping water back to the aquarium. So you don't absolutely need to have a drilled tank, but from my experience, overflow boxes with the gear, the weir cutouts, the actual overflow area, very high in the tank, are the best option, because the water level is not going to drain too far in the event of a pump failure, and so you're not going to overflow your sumps. But if you need a lot of water movement and you want to have a lot of media and you want it to be quiet and out of sight, canisters rock. They're great. If you use a pre-filter like I do, you can go for 6 months, 9 months, a year between cleanings. And so, yeah. Yep. Canisters do rock. I had an aquarium in a room where I had a television and I had hang-on backs on it. And they were Whisper. They were big Whisper 90s, which I know are run differently from other ones, but it was like I had a waterfall next to me. So I replaced them with, I think back then, this was back in California, I replaced them with Sun 304Bs, and that tank was rock solid. Rock solid. All right, let's look at our next comment here. Make sure I get these in the right order. This comment is off of the video that was released recently, Don't Beat Yourself Up Too Badly. And, of course, that video had to do with how we deal with fish, passing away. I had somebody make a comment under one of my videos that prompted me making that video, a comment about a Fusco that had passed away. And then it was further enforced by a friend of mine who lost some fish. And so I put out this video, Don't Beat Yourself Up Too Badly. And this is Heaven 7360. This has been a bad fish death month for me. Trying to diagnose properly medicate was very difficult, as what I was seeing was not obvious, as some diseases can be. Also, I'm not aggressive when it comes to medicating, as it seems medication is tough on fish. However, I'm going to medicate as per instructions next time, as in the end my fish died. So if medication is hard on them, I guess all it might be well to at least try, I guess. Okay, so these are good points. These are real good points. And you get some people who say, look, if you medicate, you're going to kill good bacteria. Which I remember listening to a video one time by, I think it was by Corey. He said that he hasn't found that medication can impact bacteria and give you an ammonia spike. But it is, I mean, think about it. Antibiotic against life. Fish, like humans, have good bacteria in their system. And that good bacteria helps to fight off certain things, helps to produce certain vitamins. So when you bomb them with antibiotics, you kill the bad bacteria in them, but you also kill the good bacteria. This is like when you treat like a child or yourself, after the antibiotic treatment, you should go and get a hold of some probiotics, maybe some yogurt, maybe something like that. Build your good bacteria back up again. So yes, it can be hard on the fish. I don't think you have to worry about your beneficial bacteria in the aquarium, but if you're going to use the medication, use it according to directions. Some people will medicate completely differently. They'll mix it in with food instead of treating the tank like the instructions say to do, or they'll come up with their own sort of style. And these medications, I'm assuming, are put together by veterinarians, right? Pharmacists, scientists. So they probably know what they're talking about. So probably a good idea to follow the directions. I will say this, sometimes you follow the directions and you're medicating a large tank. It's going to get real expensive. You try and medicate this tank behind me with some Paracleanse, 300 gallons. That's 30 packets per treatment for a week. That's a tremendous amount. That's a lot of money. So I can see why people sometimes will cut the corners and stuff. But at any rate, and sometimes diseases, I know for me, I had a run-in with Colomaris, and it appeared differently on different fish. And it moved along differently. With one fish, it would show some signs that were kind of obvious, like a little bit of a cotton mouth, what they call a saddle, like a stripe that goes from the back of the dorsal down the body. It had like a vertical stripe. It had some of the signs, but other fish showed no signs. The Colomaris was just attacking them internally, and then they would just flip over and die. So sometimes in the time it takes you to identify the disease, and sometimes you never even identify the disease. You just know something is wrong, and you start hitting it with general cure, something like that. And anyway, I get it, Heaven 7360. I hear you. All right, next comment. And by the way, add your comments to the chat if you have any tips or comments about these comments. And if you want me to see your comment, be sure to put my name ahead of it. Our next comment comes from Beach Addict. I'm a beach addict, but not so much since I moved to Tennessee. So here's somebody asking me a question about the use of Fritz. Now, keep in mind that these things like Fritz, turbo starts, and things like that, they have very different. They'll have very detailed directions on the bottle, and those directions can vary based on how you're going to be using it. So a question like this is a little bit hard for me unless I understand what it is, how you're going to be using it. Are you using it in conjunction with media? Are you using it to get a tank back on track or start a new tank? There's just various factors here. But my recommendation always is follow the directions on the label, and also go ahead and you can Google this product. You can Google the product and you can look at the label online. which is probably what I don't have these things memorized. So I probably would end up doing that. So sometimes I get questions that sort of use me as your Google. I don't mind that much, but you can just go ahead and jump in there and find the answer. The only key, probably the key points of using bacteria in a bottle that is one, well, there's several of them. One, follow the directions exactly as on the bottle. Two, add fish immediately, because you've added bacteria, and that bacteria needs food. That food's going to come from the fish, from the ammonia. So add your fish right away when using that kind of product. Three, make sure the product is not expired. There should be an expiration date on the bacteria bottle. Be sure it's not past expiration, because that bacteria will be dead. And last, be sure the aquarium is treated, because if you add beneficial bacteria to an aquarium you just filled up and that water has ammonia or some disinfectant in it, right? Chlorine, chloramine, it's going to kill the beneficial bacteria. So be sure you've treated the tank with something like Fritz Complete or, Seachem, any kind of a product that will go ahead and neutralize the chlorine and chloramine. So those are my tips on that. Next comment. Nitrates from the video. Nitrates at 40 ppm. Don't kill yourself. This is a video on people worrying too much about their nitrates. And this was from Rewatakur. I am a hobbyist from the last 20 years and testing water parameters from 10 years. I always have nitrates at 40, 80, and till date, no problems with my fish. They grow very well. Even now time I have tetras and albino hecli, and tetras are absolutely fine and growing. So probably somebody from another country who is trying their best with English. I get it. And but I understand the gist of your comment, and I assure you that my trying to talk in your language would be a complete mess. So, but we do worry too much about nitrates. I am not advocating running your aquariums with high nitrates. What I am advocating is don't beat yourself up if your nitrates are between 40 and 80. I think people are sort of calming down on it. 10 years ago it was, oh my goodness, your nitrates are above 5? Oh my, what a horrible fish keeper you are. So I think those days are behind us now. Now, there are some fish that might have a sensitivity that you have to be aware of. Fish that are more delicate than other fish. In that case, yeah, you better be on top of it. And so you better have plants. You better be testing on a regular basis, and you better keep it under control, right? Water changes, things of that nature. But for the most part, don't worry so much. Don't worry so much. I'm hearing reports. This is a conservative report, 40 to 80. I get emails and texts from people who tell me sometimes that they run over 100 normally, and it's not a problem. So, again, I'm not banging the drum for running your nitrates high, but I do think that as a hobby, we worry too much, and I also think that worry is created by companies that sell water conditioner. So, there you go. I'm just a conspiracy theory guy. Okay, our next comment comes from Algae Whisperer. And let me see here. Simple Sump. This was from the DIY Simple Sump Filter System Evolved video. Great info as usual. Are the plants in your 210 real? If so, what variety of plant? No, they are not real. And they're not real because the fish in that aquarium are plant destroyers. And so what you have in there is you have some of those beautiful plants from elite cichlids who are unfortunately no longer in business. The plants in the aquarium behind me are from elite cichlids. And they were florists who turned into aquarium plant makers and made beautiful plants, but they are no longer around. So there you go. It doesn't mean you can't use plants in these kinds of aquariums. You can put plants in a sump. You can have, plants in a hang-on back. You can, there's other ways of using plants. When I made that visit to Ohio Fish Rescue, when I gave a talk to the Ohio Cichlid Association, they gave me this nice cup. He had a pothos that was, half a mile long. So with roots going into a water system that was circulating throughout the structure. He had like a stream that would circulate around, going to the sump and then back to the tanks, and in that stream there were the roots of these pothos plants. Pretty amazing setup, actually. I'd like to go visit Big Rich again at some point. All right, our next question from the Powerhead Wavemaker Tips video. Thanks, Ben. Really appreciate your advice. Now, this video talked a lot, and that was just him thanking me for something I mentioned, but talked a lot about the use of powerheads. Now, I use Wavemakers primarily. I use the Hydor Generation 3. I use a European brand that was sent to me for review. I think it Sanger or something like that. It's a real part, 3,500 watt, or I'm sorry, 3,500 gallons per hour in the 210. So I do use them. I use them for a couple of reasons. One, I use them to pull detritus off of the substrate, put it into the water column so that the filters can then scoop it up. I have those on a timer, so they run for about 6 hours a day in 2-hour increments, and then I have them off while the fish are sleeping. So that's how I use them. I've also used them in the past where I've pointed them slightly up to create oxygen in the aquarium. If you notice that your fish are I'm kind of laughing because the red tear is digging a big hole in the back of the aquarium, and he's spazzing and he's doing all these spaz moving all the substrate everywhere. It's so funny. Anyway, so you can also use, if you see your fish gasping at the top, a powerhead or a Wavemaker, point it to the top, will do a rapid infusion of oxygen into your aquarium. So that's how I use them, and I usually use them on a timer. Our next comment comes from Robbie Shazang. Robbie Shazang, what a great name. My most simple solution for cichlid aggression was the name of the video. And I think that's the video where I just talked about how if you have a real jerk, you just got to get rid of them. Like once a fish is a confirmed killer, really all you can do is get rid of them and rehome them. Thanks for the great advice. Just lost the female of a breeding Kenii because when I reintroduced her to the tank with the male and other female, I think the other female bullied her to death. Boy, that's tough. And that's probably the biggest complaint that people have that keep cichlids is the level of aggression and how they are so into hierarchy. They're so into setting up the pecking order. Now, sometimes in some tanks, like at the moment behind me, and to a large degree in the 210, once the pecking order has been established, everybody just sort of calms down. But in some cases, you do get that crazy oddball, and their idea of a pecking order is that they are the only fish that's alive in the tank. Maybe you see that with a large Midas or a large jaguar or something like that, right? That their idea of pecking order is, this is all mine, and anyone who comes in here is going to die, including your fingers. So if you have a fish like that and you want to keep him as a solo fish, why not? Nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to try and have that fish in somewhat of a community, you're going to have problems. I mean, that's just the way it is. And really the only solution that I have found is getting rid of that fish. The eye biter that I had living with the red tear for a short while in a divided tank, that fish was literally under probation, was in solitary confinement, and then was going to go into probation. What do I mean by that? I put him back in, and if he would have been a total over-the-top jerk, corralling the fish to one side, hitting fish hard, the way he hit that Buccochromis spectabilis that ended up killing him, I would have just taken him over to the aquatic critter and said, here, you can have him. But I put him back, and he has mellowed out. He's behind me, and I think he mellowed out not because he had a timeout. I've said this many times. I don't think timeouts work. I think he mellowed out because there were 6 new fish in the aquarium, and it was just too much going on, and too many fish to single out just one fish. So that's worked out okay. Let's take a look at the next comment here. And I'm not looking at the chat as I'm going over this, so if there's a super chat or a comment from one of you, I'm not ignoring you. Let me queue up this next question for you. Here we go. This one comes from Holland Absher. Again, from the Simple DIY Sump video. That's the original DIY Sump video. How do you get the water from the tank to the, and I'm assuming that means sump? In trying to set one of these up, I just can't figure out how to get the water from the tank. So this, of course, is a question from an absolute first-time sump person. And these are the kind of questions you're going to have when you first get a sump going. The things that to somebody who's run a sump for a while seem very obvious are mind-boggling or perplexing to somebody who's never had a sump. From questions like this: how do I get the water to the sump? How do I get the water back to the aquarium? How do I keep the sump from flooding? How do I service the sump? How do I regulate so that the right amount of water is circulating, right? I mean, how do I make sure the right amount of water, like how do I make sure the pump isn't outrunning the sump and running the sump water level down? And so all these questions, until you learn about them. And with this person, I mean, my best advice to them is go to my sump filtration playlist and just start watching videos. And it'll get to you. You can use overflow boxes. You can use a drill tank. You can use a variety of methods to get the water to the sump, and then a pump pumps the water back up at the absolute most basic 101 level. But there are a lot of nuances that have to be considered, because to prevent flooding, to make sure the water is turning over correctly, to make sure if you have a baffled sump that the baffles are working right, stuff like that. So, at any rate, Holland Abster, watch the video, my playlist on sumps. There's a learning curve. Once you get your wits around it, it's the simplest, easiest to maintain system around, and it's very, very safe. You don't have to worry about floods once you get it dialed in. Okay, our next question has to do with that crazy eye biter. This is that video where I showed him behind bars. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. My kids laugh at me because I always laugh at my own jokes. So, sir, I have a question. This is from Blue Collar Fox. I have a red Empress breeder tank, just added a couple more females, and they are holding in the top corner by the filter. Now, I don't know if that means they're holding like they're holding eggs, or they're just hanging out up there. Do you think they are just stressed? Is this normal for females to do in a breeder tank? Now, there's a lot of reasons why a fish will start to act that way. That fish might be under stress. The stress might be from tank mates, but you also might have a fish that's battling something like parasites, or they're under the weather, right? My first thought would be that perhaps they're very low on the pecking order and want to stay off the radar of the other fish, like that other comment where another fish was added and the other fish took them out to eliminate competition. So my first thought would be bullying, but there's a possibility of they're fighting something off, like a parasite or some sort of virus or a disease of some kind that isn't apparent. Also, you may have a situation where they need oxygen, where you don't have enough surface breakup, and so you might want to add a bubbler, add an air stone, and see what happens. See if they start swimming around. If they start swimming around after you add the air stone, you know that was the problem. However, if they're hanging out up there and their mouths are not working, their mouths are shut, then it's probably stress or bullying. And unfortunately, they're either going to start to get into moving around, or they're going to waste away because it probably means they're not getting enough food. They're just kind of too low in the pecking order to get food. So, yeah, definitely jump on that. All right, our next question comes from Nightlight 9001. Nightlight. Aquarium, from the video Aquarium testing. And this comment is in line with the gist of the video. Where in the video I talked about that when tanks first get set up and folks are new, they tend to test a lot. But as they kind of move along in the hobby, the testing becomes more as indicated. You know, something is a little off. They're starting a new tank. They've swapped out some substrate or a new filter. The testing seems to be more on an as needed basis. And Nightlight says, I test when setting up a tank, when I put the first fish in, and when I add fish. The rest of the time I let my fish tell me what I need to know. And that's actually a really good comment, because if you watch your fish, they'll tell you something's wrong. They'll hang out in the top corner. They'll clamp their fins. They'll not eat. They'll look off. They'll color down. They'll tell you if you watch. I think years ago, I released a video about 3 years ago, maybe 4. Our fish are talking to us, and it was a fish like in my ear. And the video was like the fish are talking to us, and then below that it said, "Are we listening?" And it was really just a matter of, it was just talked about really spending time in front of your tank and enjoying your tank, but also watching the fish, because they will alert you that something might be a little off. And that's usually when people will pull out the strips. I do suggest that from time to time you do test the water coming out of your tap, because tap water can sometimes crash your tank, and it can be very frustrating. So from time to time, even if you're on a well, I've had people tell me, don't worry about that, I'm on a well, it's pristine water. I had one person tell me that they had nitrate runoff from a local farm. It got into the groundwater, and his well became super high, like 1,000 parts per million, and the fish suffered because of it. So even if you're on a well, not a bad idea to test your water source, test your tap. All right, so those were the questions. Let's take up some of your questions, and let me check out the let's see here. Let's see some of your comments, some of your questions. Let me go ahead and go over to the YouTube page. Mike Smith. I have, Mike, I have a timer on it because I don't want the fish really kind of blown around all the time. And it has to do with the reason for using a Wavemaker. In my case, I'm using, I don't need the Wavemaker to break up the surface. I have a lot of surface breakup, and I have a lot of water circulation. Like, one of the reasons people use Wavemakers is they want to create an even temperature throughout the tank. So, which would be a consideration in a big tank, right? So I have a lot of water circulation. I have a lot of surface breakup. So the reason I use the Wavemaker is to get detritus to get into the water column and pulled up by the filter. I also have certain spots in the aquarium that have been identified as sort of dead zones, like around a piece of decor you might have an accumulation of detritus. So I'll point a Wavemaker to that area, and I only need it to run for a little while. I don't need it to run all day. So that's why I do it. Now, if you're using it for as the main source of breaking up the surface for oxygen, for gas transfer, then yeah, you can have it on 24/7. There's nothing wrong having it on for 24/7. But for me, especially big flat fish like a vieja or these fish with a lot of flank, they have a lot of side to them. A red-spotted severum, a heckelei, an Oscar. These are very tall fish. I don't want them blown around. I really don't want them blown around. Even an eye biter is not a fish that it's recommended that you have powerful water circulation, because they're so thin and flat, they get blown around, and it's just assuming that that's not comfortable. Now, in nature, they're going to run into strong water currents, and if they don't like it, they just swim away from it. If they want to play in it, they'll stay in it and play in it. Like I used to have clown loaches. They used to love water current. They would just get right in it and stay in it forever. So, anyway, Mike, I hope that answered your question. I'm going to scroll a little bit back in the chat. So the question I'm reading might not be the one that you see. Jerry's Fish Room. Sorry, I'm late. Jerry, I'm going to need a note from Janice. Jerry just got a little dog, one of the cutest little dogs I've ever seen in my life. He says he bought it for his wife, but the picture he sent me was the dog is right on top of him. So, hey, Aquaballs. Good to see you there, buddy. Aquaballs says he just got some panda Uaru cichlids. Oh, those are really pretty, aren't they? Those pandas? And how big do they get? They don't get too big, I don't think. But I've thought about getting some of those Uarus, for sure. I'm scanning the chat here. I see there have been some good conversations going on between you folks. That's good. That's a good thing. Jeremy Moore says, I just got the Sun HW3000. This is the upgraded version of the Sun 704B. I bought it based on your recommendation of the 704B. The filter rocks and quiet with lots of power. How does it compare in its gallons per hour to a Fluval FX6? Is it up in that 500 range after you put media in it? 500 gallons per hour after you put media in it? Do you happen to know that, Jeremy, off the top of your head? What's the gallons per hour with media? Michael runs his Wavemakers 24/7. That's cool. Hey, you run what works for you. Hey, Whip, it's okay to be chatty, my friend. Chatty's okay. DSGF says that comments are like cheese. They're not all great. I thought you'd use a pun like they're not all grated. All right. Any more comments for me? Now's the time to hit me. I tried to put together a fish room update video for you, but I just ran too close to the wire and I didn't have time to edit and put it together. But I'll put it out this afternoon. Some updates on the redhead Tapajos. Some updates on the new cichlids behind me. An update on the Pleco nursery. And that little red shrimp that has reappeared. And the baby fry that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. So stay tuned for all that. I should have it out this afternoon. I did a re-edit of the one I released during last week's video. But I have a new update, so I think I'll just go ahead and release a new update. The one I was going to play today. So watch for that video this afternoon. Okay, so Jeremy says that the Sun HW3000 is rated at 793 gallons per hour. Wow. Empty. So probably 500. Okay. So that is definitely going head to head against a going head to head with the FX, the bigger FX6. And what was the price point on that, Jeremy? How much did you pay for that filter? Because the FX6s, I think, are running close to 400 now. G&C Aquariums. Have you ever considered a mixed gender hap peacock setup? Much more natural, and although less color, the few males you have are amazing because of the females. I tend to get great color with my fish regardless, and I think it might be because of the nutrition that I add. I don't add color food, but I do add trace minerals, but and very high quality food. But there's nothing like breeding dress. I am reluctant to add females because when they're in breeding dress is when they're the most crazy. And that's when that eye biter killed that Buccochromis spectabilis. He was in complete breeding dress. His anal fin was completely black. His body was bright, bright blue. And, you know, they get scary, and I mean that literally, scary beautiful. So I've thought about it, but I don't know if I'll be doing it. And you're right, it is more natural, but I think it'd be, I'm just a little bit concerned about the aggression. Mike Smith, I'm currently setting up a 135, 2 FX6s, 2 FX4. I think just 2 FX6s would be fine. 2 FX4s, you probably could go 2 FX4s depending on the stocking. If you're going to go with cichlids, let's say, and you're going to stock it pretty heavy, I'd go 2 FX6s. You're going to get great water movement. You're going to get great surface tension breakup, so you won't need anything else to create oxygen. And you can alternate maintenance. So there. Or, looking at the next comment, you might want to consider 2 of those Suns. Jeremy paid $135 for that 3,000 with probably 500 gallons per hour with media. So you could get 2 of those for the cost of 1 FX6. Something to consider. As a matter of fact, you could probably get 3 of them and then have 1 as a spare in case something goes wrong. You'd have a spare canister that you could put into play if something went wrong with the other ones. And that's probably the best guarantee you could have for a canister, to have a spare one sitting around. 135, that's really good. That's actually right around what an old 704B would cost. I don't have anything against Fluval. I think Fluval is a battleship. But boy, oh boy, they're expensive. I picked up mine for under $200. New in a box off of Craigslist. Cat Sailor is talking about a fish that is swimming straight up. You know, I personally haven't had luck, Cat Sailor, with the Melafix, the Pimafix, all of those herbal medications. I haven't had luck with them, and actually had a bad experience because a powerful bacteria was able to take hold while I was treating with the Melafix. But if you've had success with it, that's great. I would take a fish like that and add some salt, put them in a 5-gallon aquarium with a tablespoon of salt, and see if that helps. Aquarium salt, right? Or some of that Fritz A+ salt. I've had good results with that. I was able to reverse bloating. But that would be my advice on that. And Whip says you can pick them, the FX6s, I guess, on Black Friday for about $180. I think those days are gone. And I think it's just a ripple effect of what we're seeing throughout society, because, you know, when those gas prices went up, that rippled throughout everything, right? You see it and the distribution chain suffered. So everything from groceries to fish supplies to filter, everything that moves on a truck, those truck drivers got to buy that gas. They're not going to eat it. They're already living off small margins, so they got to pass that down. And so I think everything went up, and I very much doubt that it'll go down. The prices will go down. I mean, it's one of those things that, especially when something like an agency, a government agency, oh, this is just a temporary, like a temporary tax. There's no such thing. It usually stays in place forever and goes up from there. And don't get me talking about politics. This is a politic-free channel. Sorry about that. Ex-Cali Kev, Fluval be trippin', Fluval trippin'. I like the Fluval products I've used. I have reached out to Fluval and said, hey, listen, do you want me to talk about some of your products, like your water testing? And they just ghost me. So anyway, maybe because they watched an old video I put out a while back about how I was ranting about how the purge valve at the bottom had failed and how expensive and hard it was to find a replacement. Maybe they watched that video and said, nah, let's not send this guy anything. Hey, Denny. I've had several problems. Well, there you go. With my FX6s, I think they're overpriced and overrated. I switched exclusively to OACE, the Biomaster thermos, and you're liking those, huh? I visited their booth at Aquashella. I was impressed by the build, and they do seem to have a commitment to quality. I was a little bit concerned that the heaters were built in, because if a heater malfunctions and it's inside your canister, is it going to melt your canister? But I think they have some built-in technology, and you have a separate plug. So you run the OACE canister had two cords coming from it, one for the heater and one for the pump, so you didn't need to run the heater, and you could run the heater through a controller. So that kind of made me feel a little better about the OACE, the biotherms. And talking about Aquashella, I'm not sure if I'll be going to Aquashella this coming year. I might just replace it. I'm talking to Jerry about possibly going up to the week before Thanksgiving, Cincinnati, or I think it's closer to Cleveland, the Ohio meeting up there. It's dedicated more to cichlids. Maybe I might do that one, trying to work it out financially. And this is where you folks who help me with the Patreon support and super chats and things like that, that really helps out on being able to make trips like that and bring back footage to share with you. The HW Jeremy says that the HW3000 has a digital screen to control the flow and to control the UV light and how long you want it on. It keeps track of the hours, all for $135 off of Amazon. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And of course, you know that those UV lights that are inside those very high flow, those very high flow canisters, those UV lights do some water clarifying, but they don't really do the bacterial or virus elimination that a different type of UV light would do, like that green machine or a UV twist, like the kind they sell that you add a low flow pump to. So just something to keep in mind. I used to run the UV on my 704B. I used to run it on weekends, on Saturday and Sunday. Whips World, yes, the OCA, which is the weekend before Thanksgiving weekend. And I'm just trying to work out the finances on it. I extended my income tax filing deadline to October 15th, and we had a nice surprise. And I don't mean a good surprise. I mean like a 5-figure bill that is due. So that set me back a little bit. So we're going to have to figure that out. But we'll see. We'll see, Jerry. And if you folks do go to OCA, I'll let you know in advance. Now, one last thing before we end off. There's going to be no live stream this coming Saturday. I'm going to be out of town on business with the company that I do part-time work with. They are flying me out and to do a little work with them. So this coming weekend, no live stream. All right? Just keep that in mind. I will miss you. But the following week, we should be back on track. You're right, Chevy Fish. You are right. Very, very important. And I think in the long run, the companies that are doing the best in the industry are the ones that are listening, paying attention, and deliver. All right. So, with that being said, I think we'll go ahead and start to wind this down. I thank all of you for sitting in today. You folks really do rock. And watch for some upcoming videos, some product reviews, a walkthrough, an update on what's going on in here. I've changed a few things around. And I'll see you folks in 2 weeks. Never forget, you rock, my friends. Thank you so much for your support. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.